Hi everyone. Today I wanted to show you how to hang and install sliding barn doors in your house. In this particular video, it's split sliding barn doors, but it's the same concept for all your barn door needs. So I'll show you just a shot of the finished product here. I had an entryway leading into the laundry area and a guest bedroom that I thought was perfect for a couple 2-foot wide doors. So I'll walk you through the process on how to not only build the doors, but of course install the track and get everything ready to go for the install. I custom built doors out of shiplap, which I got from Home Depot. They do sell the standard size doors for the sliding barn door track. However, I needed to custom build them because the entryway was almost 8 feet tall and they don't sell doors that big. So if you're going to go that route, you got to stock up on wood. If not, you can buy the pre-built kits from any hardware store. So select the piece of wood that you want to be the backing for the rail. In this case, I used a 1x6, and the duct tape that you see on the wall is where I've marked the studs. Normally, you see studs about 16 inches apart. In this case, given the short wall on the left, they were a little bit closer than that. So I went ahead and marked them. You should use a stud finder to go over the area about a dozen times, honestly, to find and make sure that you have accurate markings. And then in this case, you have to make sure that everything is level because you don't want the doors sliding in the wrong direction, because you didn't put the rail in level. And a lot of times ceilings and floors, especially in older homes, are not always level. So I used basically just construction string, to make sure everything was level. And then I take a physical level to ensure that everything is lining up. Again, it's an 8-foot piece of wood. So you have to make sure that it's level across the entire area. Now we're going to move into actually installing the rail. For this, you really just need a drill and, again, a level and a socket wrench because the kits typically come with some type of lag screw or lag bolt, and you're going to want to make sure that those are super tight in the wall. So once we have everything level, you're going to use those markings on the wall where the studs are to get some screws in the wall. I used some 2.5-inch preliminary screws, and then I went back and got the lag bolts in. So I'll show you in this next clip how I did that. So here the board has some screws in the wall holding it, and then like I said, I'm going back and I drilled through the board into the stud where I've marked it, and then now I'm using a socket wrench to fit the lag bolts, which are about 4 inches long, deep into the woodwork of the house, so that there's going to be no question of whether this rail and the doors that are hanging on it are going to hold. So this takes a little bit of elbow grease, and I believe the kit came with 6 of them. So I'm putting 2 on each side, and then I had to get creative with putting 2 in the middle because, as you can see, there's no wall there at the 2-foot middle section. But you just crank these in, and it'll be holding perfectly. And there we go. It's looking good, even across the top. And now we're ready for the track install. So this is an 8-foot track. You can buy them in a number of different sizes. I believe between 6 foot at the shortest and 8 foot at the longest. And it comes in 2 pieces, as you can see. I need to secure 1 piece on the left side and then on the right side. And again, you got everything level, but you want to also make sure that the track itself goes in as level as possible. So we're going to be using the level throughout the process here to make sure that everything comes out perfectly. And take your time in securing these to the wall. Again, pull out the level a couple times to make sure that you don't have to go back and redo work. Now we're going to do the same thing on the right side. This particular set came with 4 screws in the middle so that it could have some support right at that center junction. The set also came with bumpers for the doors that go on the far left side and the far right side, and that is strictly to keep the doors from sliding off the track and crashing to the ground. So I highly recommend that you put those on the track before you start securing things and screwing things into the wall. Otherwise, depending on the setup, on the left side, for example, over here, there wasn't enough room where I could go back and add them later. So I needed to make sure that they were on the rail before I screwed everything into the wall. Otherwise, I would have been redoing work for a while. And here we go, moment of truth, checking to make sure everything's level, and it is perfect. So now we are good to move on to the doors. If you aren't going to be building custom doors, you're welcome to skip to the end of this video where I hang everything up. But in this case, I wanted to share how I built some doors out of shiplap. And I used some standard woodworking tools, clamps, and screws, different saws to cut everything to size. In this case, I started with 4 shiplap pieces. I believe they were about 1 by 5s, and pushed them all together, got them nice and tight, and clamped them down, cut them to size, sanding along the way. Of course, before you start any of these projects, you should have a vision of what you want to do in your head before you move forward with building everything. So in this case, I had an idea of the design that I wanted to make each door, and then you basically just have to set out and make 2 of them. If you're just doing a regular standard size door, then you just have to build 1. For these doors, I decided to cut out the top pieces and the bottom pieces at the same time so that I knew that all of them were identical pieces of wood with the same measurements, so that when the doors were finished, they would close perfectly together instead of me kind of measuring and cutting along the way. So if you don't have wood clamps, I would highly recommend that you get some. They're very cheap on Amazon. I think I got 4 6-inch ones, and I even bought 36-inch ones on Amazon as well. And they made the job a lot easier. You feel a lot more secure when you're drilling, when you're cutting. Just holds everything together really nicely, so there's no variance in the movements that you're making with the wood. So here's the slightly finished product before the hardware goes on. It's starting to look really good. And now that we have 1 door done, it's time to make an identical second door. So cutting the doors to size again, and we're just going to repeat the process. And there we go. Look at those beauties. 2 finished doors, pre-hardware. And then the next step is getting that hardware on and getting them hung up on the rail. So there's not really an easy way to do this. I put the doors on the ground just for a level surface. And you want to make sure that the measurements with the handles and where the sliding track rollers are going to be are very precise, because of course you want everything to line up. It's a little bit trickier when you have 2 doors, because you have to make sure that the hardware is in alignment when the doors come together, and so it looks good when they slide apart as well. I'd probably say that this is the hardest part of the entire process, is getting those rollers in the right place. So I actually, what you can't see is below the door, I have it propped up on a piece of metal that's about 1/2 inch. so that it puts it in the right position, so that I can mark where the rollers should be. And I'm using a pen to do this, and I'm putting the markings on the door where I want them to be, which is right at that inner edge of the wood, and then marking that so that I can take it back outside and drill a hole in it for that lag bolt. And the other tricky part is making sure that it's tight to the rail but not too tight, tight to the floor but not too tight. Doing the same thing on the right hand side now. Again, everything we want to be identical. This would be the one part of the entire process where you have probably the thinnest margin for error, because once you put 3/8 or 5/8 inch holes into a piece of wood, it's very tough to manipulate. So you want to get those right on the front end. You can use washers and some other tricks to adjust the doors once you get them in place, but just try to do yourself a favor and get the holes in the right spot the first time, just to make the process a little bit easier. So after this, like I said, I'm going to take the doors back outside, put 8 holes in the doors, 4 at the top of each, and then get those bolts in so that we can secure the rollers to the doors, and then finally hang it. So back outside, drilling the holes, again, as precisely as possible. If you want to use the wood clamps again to hold it in place, that's a great idea too. From here, once you have those rollers installed correctly on the doors, that's essentially the end of the build. And you just need to take the door or the doors inside and lift them, and then have them sit down on that track that we had installed earlier. If the fit is too tight for some reason, if you're having trouble getting it to fit on the track, you might need to loosen the bolts shown here, and then get up on a ladder, loosen them up, see if you can jimmy them down onto the track, and then retighten them up so that it slides nicely. You'll notice the little black pieces between the rollers at the top of the door. Those are called bumpers. I actually ended up taking those off because my fit on that rail was so tight. I didn't need them, but they come with all standard kits. And then beyond that, you're going to want some door tracks as well for the floor. So I bought my own. A lot of the door kits will come with them. Sometimes they're good quality, sometimes they're not, so up to you what you want to use. But those are really important so that the doors stay tight to the wall, and that there's no risk of them falling off and sliding true throughout their lifespan. And here we go, finished product, everything hung up, hardware in. There's me to show you again that these are 7.5 foot doors, and I just love to hear that door close. Slides open nice and easy, and that is the end of the build. Thank you guys for following along. I'm just going to end with some shots and some videos, close up. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you for watching, and this was a fun project, and excited to take on the next one.